What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does the day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi Campbell, a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, Birth Story, and owner of MyDoulaHeidi. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe that every one of them, and you, deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions and more. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories, share our feelings, and of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, I hope you will stick around and be part of this tribe. Episode 4. All right, today I am interviewing a total stranger from our local mom-to-mom board named Kristen. And this story went somewhere I was not expecting. In full disclosure, I actually had to go back and edit a part out because, man, she just got real with me. And it's just amazing. And I hope that you enjoy everything about this woman and her birth story. Hey everyone, it is Heidi with Birth Story Podcast, and I'm here with Kristen Smith to hear about her 2 births. So hey Kristen.
Hi there.
So just to get started, tell us a little bit about like who you are, your family, you know, what you want the audience to know about you.
Okay. Should I say my age?
If you
I
want
don't know.
to.
Okay. I'm 34, I think.
Yes, then you should definitely say your age. Yes.
I'm 34. I'm a native Charlottean, so I was born in Presbyterian Hospital in the 80s. I have an older brother. He also lives here too. My parents are in town, so we've got, one big happy family here. I met my husband in college. And he is from Pennsylvania. We lived there for 5 years. And when I was 7 months pregnant with my first, we moved back to Charlotte for work and just to be closer to grandparents.
We could probably do a whole podcast on like moving while 7 months pregnant.
It was insane.
This was with your first child,
yes.
too,
yes.
right?
So it was easy in the sense that I didn't have a baby or a toddler yet to look after, but I would pack for an hour and be exhausted, and have to sit down for another hour.
Yes.
So we had a lot of help from family members that lived up there helping us get packed up and all that kind of thing. But it was stressful, but it was okay.
So how about like the other 6 months, about month 7, you said you were getting ready to move to Charlotte, but I want to know how did you have a fertility journey? Did you get pregnant right away? How did your pregnancy go?
Okay. When we were married about a year, I went off the pill, and it was not to get pregnant. It was to just let the hormones balance out. I'd been on the pill since I don't even remember how old.
Okay.
Sad. So
did your doctor advise you to do that, or is that something you had read about?
I, at the time, was seeing I don't want to say a naturopath, but a chiropractor, but it was more than a chiropractor. It was more like a wellness type doctor.
Okay.
That also did chiropractic in the practice. And so I just wanted to be healthy. I wanted to feel good. So went off the pill. That summer, we hadn't been trying, but we had a surprise pregnancy.
Okay.
That was, I was terrified. We hadn't even talked about kids yet. And I was afraid. I didn't know, we were not ready. We were not ready. And I told my husband, I was expecting for him to be upset. And no, complete opposite. He was so loving. He was just saying, this is great. It's going to be fine. We have other friends who are having kids now. It's going to be fine. This is all going to be fine. This is all, this is great. We're having a baby, So.
And how old is your oldest right now?
He's 5.
Okay, so you came off the pill and you had an unexpected pregnancy, but your husband was like really excited.
Yes, it was so sweet. And I was terrified and he was okay, which is usually the opposite of how we usually react to things. So it was a pleasant experience to tell him that. So we went in for the first appointment at, 7 or 8 weeks. At the time, I was traveling a lot for work, too. So, like, trying to squeeze in the appointment and all of this was a little bit of shuffling. So we go in and, you're definitely pregnant. You're about 7 weeks along. Let's do the ultrasound. We go to the ultrasound and there's a baby and there's a heartbeat, but it was like in the mid-80s. And, you probably know more about
that's a very low heart rate.
Thing. Yeah. And so so the doctors, I think, prepared us for a loss, but, the baby was still there and there was a heartbeat and there was, so that was tough. It was, I wasn't expecting that. And at that point, we hadn't known family members or even friends that had miscarriages that we knew about, so this was kind of weird. We weren't prepared for this at all.
Had you already shared with all your family and friends that you were pregnant?
No.
Okay.
No, we hadn't told anybody. And so we were planning to tell them Labor Day. So this was like August. So we were a couple weeks away from getting to like the point, where you're supposed to tell people, I guess, in quotes. So I didn't have much bleeding, just a little spotting, but nothing significant. And we went back maybe a week or two later. The dates, it's blurry now. It's been a couple years and a lot's happened since then. So we go back and they just like put the wand in and there was no heartbeat and it was very obvious. And so
when you were spotting like a couple days before, like did you kind of feel or have an instinct like that maybe you were miscarrying?
The spotting was, it didn't make me feel any kind of way, honestly. It was nerve-wracking because, the what you learn in 5th grade health class, they tell you don't get your period when you're pregnant, you know? And so it was scary, but at the same time, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. So we we did the D&C the next day, and it was emotional. And at that point, by this time, I had told my mom, and I think I told my best friend, and we had told some of our local family members. So
who went with you to the D&C?
My husband.
Okay.
Just him. Yeah. So he took good care of me and it was emotional, but it was all right. We made it through and I rested and all that. So after that, even though we hadn't like had this big conversation, like because this was a surprise pregnancy. So it kind of took us off guard. Yeah. But after that, it was kind of like both of us decided like the only thing that's going to heal our hearts is to try again.
Yeah.
But it was scary. Your first pregnancy ending in miscarriage is kind of daunting. Yeah.
And nobody prepares you for that.
No. And at that point afterward, we heard, grandparents or parents or friends that had, had miscarriages after we shared our story with a couple of people. And that makes you feel a little better.
I think you sharing the story right now is going to comfort a lot of people that are listening.
Yeah. So we tried again for 6 or 7 months and didn't have anything. And I was at my wit's end. I was like, we got accidentally pregnant before. Why can't we do it again on purpose? And just as I was like about to make an appointment with the doctor and say, what's up with this? We found out that I was pregnant again.
So did you just miss your period or did you feel a certain way? What kind of clued you in that you were pregnant?
The first was the tingling in the boobies.
Okay.
Can I say that?
Yeah. It's an explicit podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So like very different than just like your normal period, right?
I never had that sensation during periods. Yeah. It wasn't a symptom of mine. So
that's a really obvious symptom. Then.
Yeah. So I was like, light bulb went off. This could be something.
Yeah.
And then pretty much the day after I missed my period, because I was very regular, I knew.
Yeah.
So I took the test and it was positive and that was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you with your husband when you took the test?
Yes, we were both home. I I don't even know if I told him if I was going to take it or not.
Okay.
But we had been trying, so it wasn't a total surprise. So, I ran downstairs and he was watching football or golf or something, and I told him, and he didn't have that great of a reaction the second time. I think he was scared and nervous, and he was like, well, we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So,
I can just feel his heart as you say that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so hard.
So that was hard, but we went to the doctor again, and we saw a better heartbeat. I forget what it was, but it was in the 100s.
Yeah.
It was
130 to 160.
It was probably around that. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah. Yay.
And so we still didn't tell anyone. This was, let's see, February, March.
Of what year?
2013.
Okay.
So this is kind of crazy. So and I was traveling for work. I was working for a corporate bank in commercial lending doing auditing. We lived in Pittsburgh at the time, so I was traveling all around to Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, all these places. So I was actually in Cleveland this week working on an audit and staying in a hotel, and I went to bed. I was about 10 or 11 weeks, and I was super nauseous during this pregnancy.
Okay. Which is super normal.
Yeah. But I mean, it got to the point, and
throwing up, or just the feeling of nausea?
No, throwing up.
Okay.
And I wanted to, and so, but it was just so heavy. It was all you can think about. Didn't know what to do about it. And honestly, I was so sick that I got to the point that I wished I wasn't pregnant, because I was so sick.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody can relate to that. But it was a dark place.
Yeah. It is such a normal feeling. I'll just share with you right now. I had heart palpitations. I developed PVCs and fainting spells.
Wow.
Not to scare everybody that's out there. But I remember thinking I want to live. I want to live. I had moments where I was like, I want to live more than I want to be a mom. And then I would have horrible guilt.
Yes.
But I think that I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think there's a lot of moms out there that will have had those moments where you are so sick, just like when you have the flu and you're like, I would do anything to make this go away.
Right.
And then we feel better, and then we just let those feelings go.
Right. So that was a hard thing.
So you were alone in the hotel room.
I'm alone in this hotel room. I'm so nauseous. I still have to work, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and you were just thinking, I just need it all to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally that night, I'm in a DoubleTree in Cleveland, Ohio, and I go to bed. I wake up in a pool of blood.
Oh.
Looked like a murder scene all over the bed. Ran to the bathroom. It's midnight or 1 o'clock. And I go to this is kind of gross.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Things are probably going to get weirder.
This podcast is about education through storytelling, and it is explicit.
Okay.
So it's here to teach. I say, when we were talking about this podcast, we're going to cry together. We're going to laugh together. We're going to learn together.
Okay.
But we want to hear it all, because all the things that we're talking about, and like you said, when you had your first miscarriage and no one had talked about it, this podcast and this conversation, hopefully this is just one more step towards opening up these conversations so that we're transparent and we help other people, so that when they wake up in a hotel room in a pool of blood, that they know what the next steps might be.
Yeah. So again, not prepared for this at all.
Yeah.
And I had spotting, but it was more spotting than when I miscarried. This is before. Sorry, going back.
That's okay. I think our readers are tracking. I'm tracking with you. I mean, our readers listening. I think our listeners are tracking.
Okay. So, I had more spotting with this, but again, nothing you can do. And I had gone in for several ultrasounds, and everything had been, the heartbeat was fine, and there wasn't any, I don't know, placenta issues at this point or anything. So, I was more confident, even with the spotting. But I woke up in this pool of blood. I mean, it was bad. It was ugh. So I run to the bathroom, and I've got my cell phone, and I'm pulling my pants down to sit on the toilet because stuff was coming out, and I passed these huge clots, size of my hand. And at this point, I'm only 10 weeks pregnant. So there was one that was the size of my hand, and there was one that was about the size of an egg.
Okay. Now, how were you feeling? Were you dizzy? Were you lightheaded? Do you remember feeling, or were you just feeling scared?
Just panicked.
Panicked, okay.
Panicked. I had my phone. Coincidentally, my husband was in Charlotte at my parents' house because he was on a golf trip. And he was passing through, he had been in Hilton Head and was passing through Charlotte and was going to come home the next day. So I called him. He didn't answer. It's the middle of the night. I called the house phone at my parents' house, which they don't even have anymore. And was probably screaming. And my mom answered. And I just said, Mom, I lost the baby. Like, my baby came out of me. You know, it was very, very hard. My baby's on the floor. I was just screaming like, my baby's on the floor. My baby's on the floor. She's screaming and she's, you know, I don't know what to do. You know, I'm so sorry. So I didn't know what to do. So all of this has happened. All this mess was made. And I ran to the phone in the hotel room and dialed up the front desk, I guess, because I didn't know what to do. And I don't even remember this woman's name, but it was like a heaven sent angel.
Yeah.
She answered the phone and I said, hey, you know, my name's Kristen. I'm in room whatever. I am like early pregnancy, you know, first trimester, but I think I've just miscarried and there's a huge mess in the room and I also don't know what's happening. I thought I was hemorrhaging. Yeah. You know, I didn't know what was happening at all.
Yeah.
You know, I need help and I'm here from out of town. I don't know anything. Yeah. So she was like, okay, hang on. I'm going to call you an ambulance. Everything's going to be okay.
Yep.
You know, we're just going to like, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about the hotel room. You know, all this stuff. So then the firemen come and the ambulance come and I'm
like such a mom already, by the way, being worried about the hotel room.
Yes, I know.
While you are having a trauma.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so, you know, the medics come and it's just like, and this might like prepare you for delivery and stuff because it's just like,
yes, no modesty at all.
And
like,
I'm just like pantless,
yeah.
you know, bleeding.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And there's nothing you can do about it. So the medics came and they put me on the stretcher and I grabbed my bag and I'm in Cleveland. So we go to a Cleveland Clinic hospital that's close by. And, you know, it's probably 10 minutes from my hotel, but I don't know where I am. So I could have driven myself probably, but I also thought I was like losing blood and all of this stuff.
I think everyone listening would have also called in. I wouldn't have even called the front desk.
Yeah.
That was very calm of you.
Well, I didn't even know where I was.
I'm like, I think I would have called 911.
You know, I'm in a hotel room somewhere. Yeah. So, so the front desk called for me. So they showed up and the medics gathered up what had come out of me and were getting in the ambulance. And the guy says, I don't think that's your baby. You know? Yeah. And I said, no, it is. I said, you know, I've been through this before. You know, I know it is. Like, I appreciate you trying to make me feel better, but it's over, you know, and I can't have kids. Yeah. So he's like, no, I really don't think it is, but, you know, we'll take it to the hospital and the doctors will look at it and you'll check you out and, you know, everything's going to be okay. So we get there and they get me into a room and, you know, time goes by and the ultrasound people wheel their cart into my emergency room stall, I guess. And she puts the ultrasound, I think it was on my belly at this point, again, about 10 or 11 weeks along. And there's my baby, like on the screen, floating around. You know, you got 2 arms and 2 legs and a head and you can, you know, just literally bouncing.
Kristen, I didn't know where you were going with this story, but I am like rejoicing with you right now.
It was insane. It was the most like darkest place and to the most relief you've ever felt in your life.
So now you're laying there, but you can actually see your baby.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That I was just like knew was like gone.
Oh my God. Praise God.
I know.
Amazing.
I know. It was so crazy. And of course, like every 5 minutes, my parents are calling, my husband's calling, you know, they're crying in my parents' kitchen, you know, all this stuff. My dad says, shoot, I already told people, you know, thinking, just so excited.
Way to jump the gun, Dad.
Everyone was so excited. So, what had happened was I had a subchorionic hemorrhage.
Yes.
Which from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, is blood pools between the placenta and the uterus wall?
That's exactly the definition.
Okay.
Yes. I have a client right now who had this exact same story.
Okay.
She's due January 29th.
Oh my gosh, so close.
Yeah, so exciting.
So, yeah. So, and it was a large one from what, I think relatively large. So that's
if
what
you
the
had
clots were from.
that were from the size of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when you were telling this story, I was hoping that this is where you were going with it. Because I do know for anyone that's listening, like, this is a possibility, not to get everyone's hopes up, that they will have, the miracle of not losing their child. But it is possible to have that hemorrhage between the uterine wall and the placenta. Mm-hmm. And then from my experiences is that it heals on its own over the course of the pregnancy. So how did yours do that? So tell me about, did you bleed again or?
Not to that extent.
Okay.
And the other thing too, really quick with the spotting and the bleeding, I was also told early in this pregnancy that spotting was totally normal because the cervix becomes more vascular and there's just more blood vessels and stuff down there. And so anytime it gets irritated,
like AKA having sex,
a bowel movement where you have to push, anything like that, from what I understand, can just irritate it a little bit. And you might see a little pink or a little red, when you wipe or in a little panty liner, but totally normal.
Yeah.
So
thank you for reminding us of that.
Because not everybody has that, but a lot of people do.
But if a blood clot is coming out of you, that's it.
So scary.
Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't have another event like that. So, of course, my husband flew up. He literally booked a flight at midnight that night and was on a plane at 5 a.m. to come get me. I mean, I was only a couple hours from where we lived, but I was just so shaken up. I'm literally pantless in the hotel, and then you get discharged.
Yeah. So how long did you have to stay in the hospital?
5 hours, 6 hours.
Okay.
And by the time I was ready, I think they let me stay a couple extra hours until my husband got there to take me home. So he got there.
Well, I'm just curious really quick. When you're in the hospital, do they give you IV fluids or anything to stop the bleeding, or is it just monitoring you?
No, just monitoring.
So just a natural occurrence that your body is going through. They just monitor you and then send you on your way.
Yeah, and once those clots came out,
that was it.
There was no more bleeding or anything, no more clots. It was just a weird thing that happens, I guess.
And you were still in your first trimester?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I understand from this condition, too, is that it's very common in the first trimester.
I think so. And so the next day we drive home. The next day we go to see my OB. And she told me the size of it. I forget what it is, 20 centimeters or something. And she said what is going to happen is as your baby grows and your uterus gets bigger and there's more, this probably isn't the right word, but more tension in there or more things are fighting for space.
A good word. Yeah.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. Any of those will be pushed out and there won't be any room between the placenta and the uterus anymore to gather blood.
Pull blood, yeah.
I don't know. So she said when you're about 20 weeks, these things just kind of go away. So she's like, and she was totally right. I didn't have any other instances or that.
Awesome.
During that. So,
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was emotional and crazy.
Now we're going to take a short break to just share a few things with you, and we'll be right back with our guest. Today's sponsor is Quick Zip Crib Sheets. And the reason is it's because it's Kristen's favorite baby product. So, you've set up this beautiful, perfect nursery for your baby. But did anyone ever tell you that it would be almost impossible to change that crib sheet at 3 o'clock in the morning with a baby or two in arms that have had an accident? There is such a better way. Quick Zip is a 2-piece sheet that zips on in seconds. No, really, seconds. No more lifting, pulling, wrestling to get the sheet on, or worrying about the danger of it popping off. Quick Zip, it's quick, it's easy to change, and it wraps all the way around the mattress so that it will stay on safely for baby. Quick Zip crib sheets, they've been featured in Parenting and People and Consumer Reports. Moms are talking, and what they're saying is that they're lifesavers, the best invention ever in the holy grail of baby products. So don't waste one more minute, one more night struggling with a crib sheet. Try Quick Zip today, and you can save 15% off your first order at quickzipsheet.com with the code BirthStoryPodcast. Quick Zip products also include a 100% happiness guarantee. Who doesn't love that? So there's no risk in ordering because there's free shipping, free returns with U.S. orders. So was the rest of your pregnancy like uneventful or?
Other than the move.
Yeah. Okay. The move at 7 months. But other than that, like blood pressure is like you felt good. Did the nausea subside?
Yeah, about 15 weeks.
About 15 weeks. Okay. And did you ever have to take a medicine for the nausea?
No, not for this pregnancy.
Okay. So at 7 months, you moved to Charlotte.
Yes.
I'm sure. Did you unpack your boxes?
I had a lot of help. My mom helped me a lot. And a lot of our stuff went into storage because we moved into a townhome. We moved from a house into a townhome knowing that we would buy a house at some point. Being so pregnant, like we just had to get like the first thing we could find that was good. So we had a little less stuff after we moved. So that was nice. We got all settled. I finally could decorate the nursery because I knew we were moving, so I couldn't really like buy anything yet. So that was fun. You know, all this fun stuff got to happen once we moved. We shopped for nursery furniture. And
did you have a baby shower here in Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay.
Couple baby showers. Oh, we had a big gender reveal before we moved.
Okay.
So we knew what we were having.
Okay.
With the first, not with the second. We were so excited. We were so ready. We were having a boy. It was the first boy in the family on either side. So that was kind of fun for the grandparents. Even if it was a girl, it would have been exciting too.
Yeah. I'm biased to boys because I have two of them.
They're fun.
But I love boys.
Okay, so we get settled in our house. Of course, we have a new provider. I'm well into the third trimester. So, you've got your appointments often. And again, like nothing substantial going on in the pregnancy, just your normal checkups, glucose test, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So
everything's healthy. So did you take any childbirth education classes or hire a doula?
So I was interested in unmedicated birth, but I wasn't committed to it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense.
I wanted to dabble. So I read Ina May. I read another book. I can't remember what it is. Sorry. I wanted to be prepared for any scenario. Okay. So we took this class. It was taught by a doula, and there were other doulas in the class, like in training, I think.
Okay.
It was at a birth center that I don't think is open anymore, but it was a great class. It was a Lamaze class, which was more than just your...
So you learned how to breathe.
There were a lot of people in the class actually having home births, planning for home births or birth center births. Mm-hmm. And I think actually the fact that we were planning on a hospital birth, we were there were only a couple of us in the class. I think the people in the class were maybe more committed to an unmedicated birth than we were, but I just wanted to be prepared. And I also wanted my husband to feel comfortable with words like vagina or cervix or dilation or just all of that kind of stuff.
Bloody show. Yeah.
I wanted him and to also understand like the different stages of labor and stuff because I knew he wouldn't read the book. And while he did protest some about going to these classes on Sundays in fall, aka football time, he did go.
Good for him.
Yeah. It was like 4 Sundays, so it wasn't like the Bradley method where it's 12 weeks because he wouldn't have done that. And more power to the men that do that because I think that's so noble and awesome and that's amazing. My husband's just not one of them. So the fact that he was able to go to these classes was pretty good. Again, like with the comfort level for him too. So it was very good.
So did you feel prepared for your birth by the time you were starting to have like the signs and symptoms of labor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you write a birth plan or did you have a birth plan?
I did not write it. I had it in my head. And also my mom was planning on acting as our doula. So we didn't hire one. But my mom was like all in
Yeah.
wanted to be there, and we wanted her there.
I think moms make wonderful doulas.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, because
So
the whole concept is to have someone to support you. Like, doula just means woman servant or woman caregiver.
That's so
So
nice.
whether it's like your sister or your mom, or if those two people are not available, or your best friend, then there are trained doulas, you
Right.
know? But it's so wonderful. So let's talk about like the last couple of weeks, or the last week, like leading up to your birth. Like, how were you feeling?
I was feeling good. I was active. We lived in a neighborhood that had trails. So I would walk at least a mile or two every day. We have a dog, so that was a good excuse to get outside. It was November, so it was
Gorgeous.
It was fall. Yeah, it was cool and crisp, and like I still had the AC running.
Yeah. From
so
those hot flashes.
all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no blood pressure, no preeclampsia things or anything. So I was feeling very good. We were ready.
Yeah. So then how did it happen?
So let's see. We had just watched a show. It was a Sunday night. I was 39 weeks and 3 days.
Okay.
And we'd like just turned the TV off to go to bed on Sunday. And I felt like a tightening. And I hadn't had Braxton Hicks that I knew of, at least, throughout the whole pregnancy. So it was like a little bit painful. So I was like, oh, maybe this is it. And so, of course, like immediately my senses are heightened. 10 minutes later on the second, another
Yeah.
little bit of a painful tightening. 10 minutes later, another one. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going into labor. This is so great. And I just knew it was it, but I also knew it was early labor. And because of the class, and again, I wasn't committed to a natural labor, but I wasn't like a diehard epidural, like I have to have it. It was a kind of just like a let's see what happens.
Okay.
You know?
I think it's a great attitude to have.
So, I didn't want to feel guilty if I got one, and I didn't want to feel pressured into not having one because I made a decision before I knew what anything was going to be like. So, let's see. Yep, contraction started around 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. And so I tried to lay there, but I was just excited, and the adrenaline was starting to go. And I let my husband sleep. I don't know if he did or not. I think he did. But because of the class, I was prepared to labor at home for a long time. We had the puzzles out. We had the birth ball ready that I'd already been sitting on for weeks. I was ready. I knew what to do. So I go downstairs and I unload the dishwasher and I just kind of tidy up the kitchen a little bit and just try to stay busy.
Were you timing contractions, or were you just letting them happen?
I was timing them on whatever app I had on my phone.
Okay.
And they were regular and they weren't stopping because I knew to get up and do something.
Yeah.
And if they stopped, then it wasn't labor, of course, but they never stopped. And it got to be the middle of the night, and
It's always the middle of the night.
I know, when you're already tired, you've already been awake all day.
Like, poor us, like poor moms. I'm like, why is it
You don't
always...
know that last sleep is your last sleep.
I mean, I know from a science perspective, like why it's at night, but poor moms.
I know. So like 3 o'clock in the morning, I take a shower.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have blow-dried hair, makeup on.
Love it.
Just a little bit, look okay in pictures.
I cannot tell you how many of my clients I get there and they're like blow drying their hair.
Fresh.
And I'm like, you're adorable, but that means you're in early labor.
Oh, my second labor,
Yes.
you will see.
We are going to talk
you will
about that
hear
in just a minute.
Total opposite.
I'm so excited.
So, I blow dried my hair. I put on makeup at like 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever. And around 6, it got to the point that I couldn't really talk through them. But they were maybe 5 minutes apart at this point. I had to breathe. I had to lean over and breathe through the contraction, but it wasn't anything.
But had you slept?
No.
Okay.
And I tried to lay down at first, but I was just too excited.
So basically you had already been in early labor for 8 hours and have not slept.
Yes.
So you are tired. I'm assuming you're tired.
And I, of course, had the plan, in my mental birth plan was to make sure I eat before I go to the hospital. So around 6 o'clock, my husband gets up and, he was sleepy, aware, I think, all night of what was happening. But I think once he saw me, like, having to, like, lean over and breathe, he was like, call the doctor. We're going. And in my mind, I knew that I wasn't really anywhere close and that I wanted to stay home. But, like, he was, like, I think kind of, like, freaked out.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I called the doctor and they said, okay, come on in. It is today and it's 11/13. And I was like, oh, what a cool birthday. 11/11. The person on the phone with the OBGYN said, go ahead and come on in. It sounds like you're, really in labor. So we have like a freak out moment, like, this is happening. We're going to have our baby. We get the
Had you already packed the car?
No.
Okay.
No, but we like did all those things, got ready to go. So we get to the hospital and I hadn't like told my mom yet that I didn't want to bother her in the middle of the night if it wasn't anything serious. I knew she would need to be rested.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, we really needed to be rested because this was long. So we like let her know. So she we get to the hospital, check in, and they check my cervix and triage, and I was like 4 centimeters. And they said, you're staying.
That's a really good starting
point.
point.
Some people get sent home at 4 centimeters, so I don't know how they decide who's staying and who's...
Contraction pattern.
Okay.
Plus the fact that... Because some people can be 4 centimeters dilated and not in labor.
Like walking around for weeks.
Yeah, I actually just had a client that delivered last Monday, and she was 6 centimeters dilated before labor even started with baby number 1. So, yeah, it really happened. It really has a lot to do with like contractions.
It's not just one thing or another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of moving parts that all equal labor.
Yeah, so they said, you're staying, you're having your baby. So it's like 8 a.m. at this point. I had my green smoothie on the way with, protein and all that. So I tried to have like a full meal that wasn't too heavy on the way.
Good job. I ate Bojangles on the way to the hospital. It was disgusting. In my birth story, it's like the worst regret. High five for green smoothies on the way to labor.
Yeah. Okay. So, we're feeling good. We're feeling excited. So we're in the hospital. My mom had her copy of the birth partner book that she had read cover to cover, highlighted, dog-eared, taken notes in. She was armed and ready and excited, So it gets to be noon. They check me again. I'm only 5 centimeters.
Okay, so that's far. I mean, 5 is a lot of centimeters dilated, but tell me, like, do you remember how you were feeling? Do you, like, remember at that point? Like, I know you were feeling tired, but what were contractions feeling like?
I had to stop and breathe through them, but in between I was okay. And they were maybe 2 to 3 minutes apart. Okay. I mean, like, my dad came to visit, and that was fine. The hospital that I delivered in had bathtubs. And so we thought maybe if I got in like a warm bath that I would relax a little more and the contractions maybe would pick up and I would dilate a little more. So I tried that. Didn't help. So the doctor wanted to break my water. And this was almost like a turning point, right? Because I wasn't committed to unmedicated, but I also I was afraid to go down the path of interventions.
So were you still about 5 centimeters when they broke your water?
Yeah, so that was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They finally broke my water. And it was insignificant. It was totally fine. Actually, not a lot came out. This is a funny story. This is a little funny side note, if you want to hear.
Yeah.
So my dad had come to visit, off and on throughout the day, I think to help my mom. And I mean, at this point, it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. None of us had like eaten, so and he was excited too. So he had come to visit and just left the room, and I was sitting on a ball, and like my husband was sitting on a chair in front of me, and I was leaned over him. We were facing each other, and I was leaned over him. And literally, as soon as my dad shut the door to the hospital room to leave, the rest of my water came out in like a huge gush. It was so funny, and like my dad would have been horrified if he had seen that.
My goodness.
So that was like, as soon as that water broke, it was kind of on.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm going to interject right here because sometimes when they break the water, the head will almost like reseal. And then when you're on the ball and you're like rocking your hips or moving around, it creates sometimes space for the rest of the water to like break open.
Because when they broke it with the little tool, it really was insignificant. But that I was in the bed, but then I got up and a couple, maybe an hour later this happened. So it was funny. And then from that point, I think they checked me and it was 7 centimeters, and the contractions, once that water breaks, the pain really picks up, I guess. And so I was breathing through things, but I was exhausted. And so we made the decision to request the epidural.
And how many hours into labor were you at this point? Like almost 24?
I want to say about 20. At this point, it's probably about 5 o'clock at night.
Girl, that's a long time. Okay.
Yeah, but the contractions weren't that bad up until the kind of this point, and the fact that I was so tired and all of that kind of helped us decide, like, we need this.
The number one reason my clients get an epidural is because of fatigue, not pain.
Yeah.
They just want some rest.
Right.
They're like, I can handle the next contraction, but I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So were you kind of feeling that, like you just wanted a break? Or was the pain like, I need the pain to go away?
I was afraid of the ring of fire, to be honest, to be perfectly honest. I was afraid of that.
Okay.
My whole pregnancy, right? And so I said, God, if this is this bad now, it's only going to get worse, right?
I don't know where.
And we can revisit this after my second kid is born because,
I have a client that literally like sang, "This girl is on fire," as she felt the ring of fire, and I wanted to die hearing this.
Good for her.
Like,
that's great.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So, but you had heard about this ring of fire, which happens just at the delivery, but you were like, I need that to not happen to me.
I can't.
Is what you were thinking.
I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I will never be right again.
So when you made the decision, like, get me the epidural, like, how long did it take for the anesthesiologist to get there?
Maybe 45 minutes or so.
Okay.
I mean, and I wasn't like begging for it,
And did you already have an IV or did they have to put an IV in?
When I got into the delivery room from the triage, they put in the hep block. So it was in, but I wasn't
getting any fluids at that point.
I guess maybe at this point I had some fluids.
Okay.
But yeah, when I got to the hospital, they put that in, but then I was able to walk around and go outside. They have like a little outside area, which was nice.
Yeah.
That's what I had wanted to do. I wanted to keep moving. I knew that was part of it.
Yeah.
And so, so everything was ready. They had already taken done the lab work, and I had the fluids. So it was like ready. We were ready for the epidural.
Yeah.
Once the anesthesiologist was there. So he came in and did that, and I hated that. I'm sorry to scare anybody, but
it's okay. This is your story.
I didn't like getting the epidural.
Okay.
The physical act of it.
Okay. So let's share with everybody a little bit about what it's like to get an epidural, because I also had an epidural with one of my births. And I remember having to just be really still and curl over.
Yeah.
But then the contractions keep coming. So
what was stuck? Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, what was the most uncomfortable part of that epidural?
It was probably more of the mental, oh my gosh, there is a huge needle going into my spine.
Okay.
This is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they show you the needle?
No.
Okay. So you're just envisioning what it might look like.
Yeah. I'm probably picturing it to be way
So.
bigger and worse than it actually was. So, yeah, we got the epidural and it was fine. And I think I had a good epidural because I could still move my legs, but I couldn't feel much. However, it gave me the shakes. Or maybe that was labor. Yeah, but I had the shakes so bad that I couldn't lay down and rest.
Okay.
So that was a big disappointment.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, the shakes are super normal, and they're a very annoying part of labor, and they can also happen right after delivery too. So I'll put some information about the shakes in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea because again, something I was not prepared for.
Yeah.
So a couple hours go by, and my husband and my mom took shifts going to get something to eat in the cafeteria, and a little breather there. And then we got to the point where we decided, the birthday is going to be 11, 12, 13, even though I'd gone to the labor on the 10th.
Yeah.
Technically. But I was like, oh, wait, that's an even cooler birthday than 11/11.
Right.
So
I like it. 11, 12, 13.
It had a little ring to it. It's fun. So, and that was fine. So around midnight, they come and check me, and I'm 10. I guess I'm complete. I'm complete at this point. I had a friend recently before this who had a baby a couple months before me, and she pushed for 4 hours. And so I was heightened to that, and I was sensitive to that. And I said, I don't really feel pressure, though, so I just kind of want to labor down until, like, I really feel the urge, because I don't want that to happen to me, because that was scary.
Yeah. And for everyone that's listening, I am 100% an advocate for laboring down. So 10 centimeters is just one of the parameters that we're looking for, but the station of the baby, meaning like where the baby is that head high? Is that head low? Is the head engaged in the pelvis? Like, that's really important. And let me tell you, if you are not feeling the urge to bear down, the baby is high. So I think it's really important to like save your energy and let the baby come down. So it's good to hear you say that that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And so they let me do that for maybe an hour or two more.
Okay.
And they finally, I think, were like, okay, this girl's got to have this baby.
Okay.
So around 1:00 a.m., they're like, okay, we're going to start pushing. So, you do a couple pushes while the one nurse watches. And then
to practice and to coach you.
And they can see, what's happening. And I don't know what they could see or couldn't see at this point. So all I know is we're pushing. Again, at this point, I've been awake for almost 48 hours. So, and, I had that smoothie, but that was long gone. I might have had like half of a popsicle at some point. So I was just cooked.
And then I meant to ask you too, right before you started pushing, when you were having the shakes and stuff, did you ever vomit?
No.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. So I almost wanted to, though, because I knew that was transition. Again, from those classes, like in the Item A, like I knew the signs.
Like if I could just get to the vomiting part, we're almost done.
Yeah. So, so we started pushing and pushing and pushing. Finally, and I like didn't want a mirror because I was afraid to see things that I can't unsee.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I was asking for a mirror because I couldn't feel anything. You know?
And you needed some motivation.
Yeah. And so they brought it in, and then finally I was able to get a push where we could see a little bit of the head.
Yeah.
And so that was good. And plus I could kind of feel how to push.
Yeah.
But that epidural is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Because if it's good and heavy and it takes your pain away, it also makes it difficult to feel, either the natural ejection reflex occurring that you can work with, So I was there, understand.
Yeah, very hard.
Yeah. So did you feel like the mirror like really helped you? Like, what I'm doing?
It did, because I could tell like physically what I was doing
was working.
Yeah, and then I could try to recreate that on the next push.
Yeah. Okay.
So I ended up pushing for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
And it felt like an eternity, and it was very scary for me. I don't know. I think I was just really tired, but also like they've got like the heart rate monitor on, and like maybe they shouldn't have said this, but like, oh, the heart rate is low. The heart rate is changing, and I'm
decelerating.
And I'm starting to panic. Oh my gosh, just take me back, get this baby out. I want this baby in my arms. I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm worried for his safety now.
Yeah. I think one of the things too, that there are many heart decelerations that are indications of an emergency, right? But in 14 years, I have rarely, maybe one or two births, ever seen a baby be born without heart decelerations.
Right.
Because
now I understand.
When the head is being compressed and there's no amniotic fluid over and over and over again, there are some natural decelerations that occur. But it's more important that when the contraction is over, what happens to the heart rate.
Right. And from what I understand, everything was fine in between contractions.
So your son was decelerating a little bit, but then bouncing back.
Just hearing that just scared me.
Yeah.
And
you're just like, give me a healthy baby in my arms.
I'm like, C-section, let's go.
Yeah.
And, we weren't there.
Yeah.
So then he was born. I don't know. It was so foggy at that point, which makes me so sad.
Yeah.
But it just, so he was born at 3:45 a.m.
Oh my goodness, that is such a long labor. So it's not uncommon.
I know.
It's not uncommon.
I know.
It's just really long.
And I'm like, people probably think I'm crazy saying I had a 30-hour labor. And it's like, no, you really didn't. But
No, you really
contractions
did.
started and they didn't stop until he was born. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I've been with women before for almost 50 hours.
Oh my gosh.
50. Like where I'm like, I have to take a nap. So
Yes.
it is. 30 is a long labor, and you got all the way to 7 centimeters dilated totally naturally, like almost 24 hours. And like, that's amazing. You're a rock star. Like
Thank you. I don't feel like a rock star, but thank
if a
you.
million people haven't told you like you are a rock star, like you are a rock star. So you pushed him out.
I pushed him out.
Yay.
Everything was fine. And I was just so relieved because like after the miscarriage and after the subchorionic hemorrhage and all that,
Yeah.
I just wanted to hold my baby.
Yeah.
And so it was just so emotional, and it was just great. My mom was there. My mom like got his like first cries on video. So
Do you just remember like holding him, like staring at him? Like,
I was just like, I'm so glad you're here. I love you so much. We're going to get these lights off. It's just going to be you and me. It's going to be,
yeah.
we're together.
The most amazing feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So did your husband cut the cord?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And, in my mental birth plan, I was like delayed cord clamping, all of this. And my husband was on board with that. And he saw the doctor put the clamp on and he's like, oh no, take the clamp off. So I don't know. It was so crazy.
I'm assuming that
So
they
I don't
didn't.
know if we delayed.
I don't know.
I think he did undo the
unclamp it?
clamp for a couple minutes, but I don't know. At that
really
point,
good.
I feel like everything was like out the window.
Yeah. But still, the fact that you guys were trying to advocate for something that you wanted
Some
at the
stuff,
end is really
right.
cool.
Yeah,
I know
so-
we have a plan, and then we just, at the end of the day, you're like, healthy baby in my
Yes,
arms right now.
absolutely.
And you let some of that stuff go, which
Yeah.
is, really good. Well, it's been really amazing hearing your whole journey, through your pregnancies and getting your son here safely. And you did such an amazing job with the labor. And on another episode, so if you guys loved hearing from Kristen, you are going to die when you hear that her second birth was very precipitous. So the world just kind of took care of that long first labor. So we're going to, so on our next episode, we're going to hear part 2 of Kristen's journey. But before we get to that, tell me what are your favorite baby products, or did you have a favorite baby product that you used?
You know what it is, and this is but so helpful, is these quick zip sheets.
All right, do
my
tell.
gosh, everybody needs these who
Okay.
has a crib. Crib sheets are such a pain to change, in my opinion.
All sheets are.
Yes, 100%. And I will say, this is maybe a controversial subject, but I'm a bumper mom.
Okay.
So I have the bumpers on. So the crib sheet is even harder to change.
Yeah.
So what these sheets are is they go under the mattress and up over, and then there's a zipper that zips on the top of the crib. And so you just zip off the dirty
To only change the part of the crib sheet that you need
that
to
the baby
change.
touches.
That is brilliant.
And then you zip on a clean one.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
been really nice to hear your story and to
Thank
get to
you.
know you. Thanks to Quick Zip Crib Sheets for sponsoring today's episode and for being Kristen and so many moms' favorite baby product. Quick Zip offers great starter packs, perfect for setting up your nursery or to give as the best baby shower gift in the pile. The packs include one base that stays on the mattress and up to 3 zip-on sheets, so you'll have a couple ready to go for a quick change. Some packs also include waterproof mattress pads that are flat, with no skirt, and designed to work with the Quick Zip system. Also, great news is that you can buy additional zip-on sheets whenever you need an extra, or you just want to freshen up the look for a new season. Quick Zip sheets are great quality and durable, and they even last kid to kid. So just a reminder, you can head over today to save 15% at quickzipsheet.com and use code BirthStoryPodcast. and there is that 100% happiness guarantee. Thank you for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy to speak up, plan, and prepare for the birth you want, no matter what that looks like. I'm so excited to tell you about my first book that I wrote that is launching this summer. It's a 42-week guide to your pregnancy. It's a collection of birth stories. It has a ton of doula advice from all of the questions that my clients have asked me over the last 14 years. It has hysterical partner tips that you will want to read to your partner. And it has journaling prompts because nobody has time to write 20 pages in their journal about their pregnancy. So I've taken the liberty to give you some prompts of things that I think you might want to remember back on after the baby's born. So again, you can go to birthstory.com and pre-order a copy today, and it would mean the world to me. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I need your help to spread the word. If you know anyone who is pregnant, is trying to become pregnant, or just loves a good birth story, if you could send them to iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or SoundCloud, wherever they listen to